Welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports. I'm your host, Normie. Over here, this way, we have our other host, Cunado. And down below, where he is at his best, Santana. How are y'all doing tonight?
Doing well. How y'all doing?
Just fine. Ready to get this one kicked off. We got a lot to recap and then a lot to look forward to, and I'm excited about it.
Yep, I'm doing pretty good too. Just, the normal stressed out, little extra added stressed out, but I'm still doing good.
I'm sure that we don't know what you're talking about, Normie.
Yep.
That's an off-screen conversation.
Yeah, that's neat to know.
It's need to know basis only. I'm glad you're doing. You're making it though. I'm glad about that.
I'm definitely making it. But first off, recapping, we got the Final Four and the NCAA National Championship.
I'll hop right in there. First off, we're a Birmingham-based show. Santana and I are self-admitted Auburn fans, and I told the audience that I was pulling for Alabama, other than please don't make a Final Four, that's ours. They made one, and then they played a hell of a game against the best team in basketball, in my opinion. They actually kept it close until about the last, 8 to 10 minutes. It was a game of runs there in the second half, and they just started to fall behind. Statistically, they stayed right there with them. Once again, the best team in basketball, UConn, won the championship. Alabama just had to play them. And I think that they were just that good because they basically did the exact same thing in the championship game to Purdue with Edey, probably the best player in basketball, with 10 boards and 37 points. And they still had a 15-point margin. It's just because they stay balanced. They do everything well, nothing great, but everything well. But to any Alabama fans that have watched or will watch or whatever, I'm glad that you guys lost. But you played your asses off. You deserve to be there, and all the young men on the team, seriously, congratulations. It was a hell of a run, and historical for Alabama basketball, first Final Four in Alabama basketball history. So good for them. That championship game, and also sorry to any NC State fans watching, the run had to come to an end. I mean,
yeah.
It was a good Cinderella story. That game was pretty fun to watch. But just real quick recap on my end for it, because I gotta throw some flowers at the women's NCAA tournament too. First time in history that the women's championship had more viewers than the men's, and not by a little. Honestly, 18.87 million viewers for the women's championship to 14.82 million for the men's.
Damn.
It's a significant difference. And women's basketball is going to, or the NCAA women's basketball is going to miss Caitlin Clark because that height is real. I watched both games. Caitlin Clark is a dog. She's very, very good. I think that South Carolina was too physical of a team. It was kind of one of those, Iowa jumped up really quickly and had a lot of momentum, but it was a war of attrition. And South Carolina is just very physical, and all them girls is aggressive, and I think it just started to take its toll. But anyways, that's it. That's my Final Four.
Well, I watched the NC State Purdue one, and it was a good one. It just seemed like Purdue they just had too much. NC State just was like overwhelmed for most of the game, it seemed like. And then I didn't watch the Alabama one. I kind of kept track, with it, just checking the score every so often. I had the UFL game on, and it seemed at one point it was like Alabama was like 6 or 7 points down, but it ended up kind of how like I figured it would, because I had said that it was either going to be a really close Alabama win or UConn would beat them by like 14 or 15, and they ended up beating them by 15, was it, or 14?
I think 14.
14, yeah. So that's kind of how I figured it would go. Just watching UConn, the times I'd watched them throughout the tournament, they look like men among boys a lot of times. And championship game wise, I really didn't watch it either. But from everything I've heard, that it wasn't just the play, it was actually like the scheme that they had going into the game. The scheme that they had was pretty much like, Edie, we're going to let you score pretty much anytime you want, but you're not shooting a 3 on us. And I think they made Purdue had like 1 3 in the first half, and I think ended up like 3 or 4 for 7 from the 3-point line. So to me, it wasn't just like them going out there and playing and just beating them that way. Like there was scheme and everything involved, which is what it takes to win a national championship, especially in college basketball. Like it's such a grind, and you gotta have that good scheme to be able to throw in. They had 2 days to put that in.
I mean, it's 2-1 seeds. They might, like Dan Hurley and the crew might have been looking towards Purdue to be that team. I don't know, but you speaking about that, it was kind of like it felt like quicksand, and that's a lot of the UConn games, where it's like, we'll let you beat us here, but you're gonna drown everywhere else.
Yeah,
and then we're just gonna like be consistent on our end, so just wear you out.
Yep. But like you said, the best team won. UConn was by far the best team. Yeah. Santana, any thoughts?
I concur with all that you guys said.
But before we leave college basketball, specifically men's college basketball, so what do y'all think about that Calipari thing? So Musselman leaves Arkansas to go to USC, and then I was just driving in one morning, and the Jocks Early show came on, and they're like, "Yeah, Calipari's going to Arkansas." It's like, what? That was even on the table? Like,
it kind of reminds me of when Brian Kelly ended up at LSU. It's like, wait a second, that was an option. I didn't know that was. I didn't know we could just get those coaches when we wanted them, type thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm just hoping that they just blow up Nate Oates' phone and get him on out of Tuscaloosa.
Nope. He already he said yesterday or the day before. Well, he did the modern day, like put out the video or graphic, kind of like Dan Lanning did with the Alabama job. He did something like that. So he was staying. And then I heard today that the Baylor coach is staying at Baylor.
Yep. Yeah, Scott Drew's like they're like the next one up, or maybe the first one up. I don't know. But me and Santana were talking about a little bit earlier today, just like, how do you turn down Kentucky? Kentucky is like the bluest of bloods. Like
it is college basketball.
Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and Duke. Those four, like any one of those 4 jobs should be a job that you would basically sell your soul for. And to turn it down for, not that Baylor's bad by any means. Baylor's great.
What we talked about earlier, Baylor has been there more recent than Kentucky has, and Bama has been there more recent than Kentucky has, and Auburn has been there more recent than Kentucky has. Like at this point, really, why would you be drawn to Kentucky more than any of the places that you're at if you're at a place that has been successful?
It's kind of like like a Rich Rodriguez in Alabama.
I mean, it just why? Yeah, I mean, you kind of
At that point at Alabama, it was a shit show.
yeah. So why
It
do you
was
think?
so why would you go there?
Right. Exactly. And we understand, I guess, or I think we all understand about Calipari and why he would jet. Things have gotten stale over there for him, and that fan base is again much like Alabama football. If you're not successful, you're not going to be welcome there for very long. And successful for a lot of basketball programs is making it to the tournament every year and making it into a couple of rounds of the tournament every year, but not for Kentucky. If you're not pushing Final Fours and winning championships, then they're not happy. So understand Cal jetting, but it is shocking. And it's also shocking that somebody like Nate Oates would say, no, I'm for sure staying here. And Drew would stay put at Baylor and
Dan Hurley at UConn.
Yeah. And you would think now, and especially Hurley at UConn, like obviously he's a back-to-back. Like I could understand why he would not want to go anywhere.
To me, that would be more like that Kirby Smart, like when Saban retired and people were like Kirby Smart, and it's like, why would he leave?
Yeah,
he's got it just set up, just like he wants it. Like
they're in the exact same position, maybe even slightly better right this second.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no reason to bail, and that's his alma mater. And I think Dan Hurley did play basketball at UConn too, so I'm not positive on that, but yeah, no, he's like, I'm building a dynasty here. So, well, 2 national championships in a row that hasn't been done since in the 2000s, except for one other time with Florida in 06, 07.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. The fact that job is still a void right now, and there's not a lot of buzz about like who's going to take it or the next name up, and I don't know. I mean, it's
well, and how much
it's one of the 4 biggest jobs.
How much does Cal leaving for Arkansas make the rest of these other big name coaches go? If Cal's jetting, maybe I don't.
Yeah,
part of the reason why he apparently jettisoned himself, because he wasn't fired or anything.
I mean,
he left for a different job, but then like all the smoke that came with that fire was he wasn't getting the backing from the boosters that he wanted for NIL deals and this, that, and the other. And he had just kind of soured on the Kentucky palate, because like Santana was saying, is like Kentucky doesn't expect, we make the championship, or you damn sure don't expect to be 4th or 5th best team in the SEC for the last few years, because between Auburn, Alabama, and Tennessee, Kentucky is not in the top 3 for the last like 3 to 4 years. Like, so not only are you not getting it done in the tournament, you're not even winning the conference. Now, granted, this conference has gotten way tougher, but
yeah, it is a different animal than what a lot of Kentucky fans are used to. They're used to being the big dogs in the conference, and now between, I mean, just really everybody, but Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, and Florida, Kentucky's not always going to be the top dog in the conference anymore. So there's a lot of different expectations going into this, whatever the new coach is going to encounter also.
Well, even in the SEC, I mean, you got a team like LSU who was terrible this year, but still able to beat a team like Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like even your terrible low-end teams can still beat you, especially if you're at their house.
Well, and Kenyatta and I've talked about this a bunch,
unless you're Missouri.
Unless you're Missouri.
It's true.
Which in the past has had really good basketball teams. So this is just something that I have not grown up watching. Like I have watched, again, Florida was real good. Kentucky's always real good. Tennessee has hung around for the majority of the time that I've been old enough to give a care about what's going on in sports. So for now, this conference to be top heavy, but then also just I mean, they're all tough outs. Like it's not an easy conference to play ball in. So,
I mean, South Carolina was supposed to be on a rebuild, and they went to the tournament this year and upset a bunch of people. Like the SEC basketball has gotten tricky, which I'm here for. I love it. Like, I don't want to just be a great football conference. Let's be good at all of it. And so far, so good. Oh, and also baseball.
Yeah.
Obviously,
and gymnastics.
And softball.
And gymnastics.
And softball, yeah.
And
slang,
equestrian.
And equestrian. Well, I feel like one team is carrying the burden.
Hey, Georgia's pretty goddamn good. As a matter of fact, I think the last 2 national championships have been between Auburn and Georgia. So
Yeah.
it just means more. Okay.
It just means more. So, all right, Calipari leaving. Do you think it was more? Do you think both sides were kind of happy with it?
I 100% do. I think that's why I think that's why that move happened. Is both of them wanted to be parted from the other.
Mm-hmm.
One of them had a lot of pressure on, so Kentucky had a lot of pressure on Calipari, whether it's the boosters, administration, fan base, probably a culmination of all three. And he probably wanted a fresh start and didn't feel like he was getting the backing that he wanted anyways. The salary at Arkansas is only slightly less than what he was getting paid at Kentucky. I think depending on where Kentucky lands this next head coach, it could work out for both programs. I don't know, but I do think that it was mutual.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, just we three who are not Kentucky basketball fans, we could, I think, all feel the just stale air that was around Cal and that Kentucky program. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that everybody was ready for it to change in some type of fashion, and I don't think anybody wanted it to go down ugly like they had to fire Cal. So, I think that everybody's stoked that it probably worked out the way that it did. And Cal leaves for a program that's not Kentucky, but he goes over there and with a refreshed sense of existence and goes over there and starts pulling the type of players that he's capable of doing, capable of pulling in. And Arkansas is immediately somewhere on the map as far as SEC goes. And then Kentucky's always going to be Kentucky, regardless of who they pull in as far as head coach goes. So they'll be, also at somewhere in the top half of the SEC and continue to compete for tournaments and such as that. So I think everybody's probably pretty stoked, pretty happy that it went that way without it getting ugly.
Yeah. Is Bruce Pearl going?
You shut your whore mouth.
I mean, the only other guy I can think of would be the guy from Tennessee, but.
Well, and I would think that Bruce is probably on their list at some point. I don't think that he's anywhere. I mean, he is getting up there in age, and the way that he feels about Auburn, I don't know that he would be interested in leaving, but I do know
he does seem to he really loves it down there.
Well, I mean, it's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place to live. It's great people around there, and the support for him and the basketball program since he has been there has just exploded. Mm-hmm. He's again going back to Nate Oates and Drew being able to make it to the Final Four more recently than Kentucky has, Auburn has. If you can make it there with Auburn, why do you really feel the need to jump to a program like Kentucky where, he gets bounced in the first round against Yale this year? And some Auburn fans, because Auburn is a very divisive and polarized fan base oftentimes. But some Auburn fans were mad, but right. But for the most part, everybody's like, we love you, Bruce. We'll see you next year. Let's, strap it on and get after it next year. And you get bounced against in the first round against Yale with Kentucky, and you coach at Arkansas all of a sudden. So, again, with his age, I think that he feels like he owes he's got a lot of loyalty to Auburn because he feels like they gave him a chance when nobody else really was. Mm-hmm. I think he's comfortable. I don't see him going anywhere. I also don't see him being in the top 5 or 6 calls that they make, but I think that he would probably have to think about it because, again, it is Kentucky.
Right.
But also, don't you speak that into existence.
I'll be so bummed. We've already had a jinx say something like Bruce Pearl will not leave Auburn for Kentucky, and it's the biggest jinx that I've known in my sports fandom.
Some would call him a landmine.
Yeah, a bit of a landmine, and heard him like he won't do it, and then said it definitively. It's like, you shut your mouth.
Hey, Alabama fans have had a coach that came out and said that he loved Alabama and he was never leaving, and he left in the middle of the night. So
he sure did.
We've had that happen before too.
Hey, it's coach speak, man. I mean, that's sports from little league all the way to the pros. I mean, coaches don't say what they mean half the time, but
yeah. Are you having fun?
No, I don't know who's next up on the list, but I agree with you, Normie, and I agree with you also, Santana. Bruce Pearl's somewhere on there, probably. Like, depending on what I don't think he's the next one or the next one or the next one, but
yeah,
like he's probably somewhere in
I don't know
that
how
range.
he couldn't be if he's not. Again, I don't think he's in the top 5-6. But if you get down to 5-6 and 5 and 6 say no, and Bruce Pearl it in your number 7 call, I don't know what you're doing up there. Like he's
talked glowingly about Kentucky multiple times. This year, he said something like, "Our fans expect us to be Kentucky-esque after a loss or two in a row," and he's like, "We're not Kentucky. We're building towards that, but we're not Kentucky." Like, he has compared Auburn basketball to Kentucky a couple of times over his tenure at Auburn. He understands the difference. I mean, it is the premier program in the SEC, even though they're not the best program in the SEC right this second.
yeah.
We all know who the top dog is, and I don't know how long they'll be down, but I'm here for them being down right now as long as we retain Bruce Pearl. Or at least if he leaves, Stephen Pearl takes over, and we still have a Pearl at the helm.
There we go.
But I don't know. It's confusing and crazy. And the fact that Kentucky, a program like that, has been turned down.
Sorry,
basically thrice. Go ahead.
I just went to the ESPN men's basketball.
Is the first thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, again, the fact that they've been turned down once, and I mean, if they keep getting, no, we're good. I just don't, his phone's going to ring. If not already, like, it wouldn't shock me if his phone has already at least been like any interest at all type deal.
Yeah.
And it's a premier job. Like, I wouldn't hate Bruce for leaving. Like, it's a premier job. That's one of the top 3 or 4 schools to coach at. I mean, UNC, Duke, Kentucky. Like, that's basically what you're looking at. So I would not hate what?
Kansas.
I
said there's 4.
Yeah, and so it would not shock me or not hurt my feeling. I mean, it hurt my feelings, but I would not be upset with Bruce. I would understand if he decided if he got that phone call and he decided to take that job. And he's the type of human who deserves to have that job. So, shit, man, maybe I'm putting Bruce up for the job. Maybe it's time. If you love something, you let it go.
If it comes back, you own it. If it doesn't, you don't.
Yeah, is that where we're at? Is that what's happening?
Nope.
I feel like we need to get.
We were the 14th best program in the SEC, and he took us to being perennially either 1, 2, or 3.
I feel like he was the duck in the oil spill, and we took him from the oil spill, and we donned dish detergent, his little soft feathers, and we washed him away, and now he's just about ready to fly again. Mm-mm. And instead of south, he's going
clip his wings
slightly north to Kentucky.
He's gonna stay here.
When we got the oil out of his feathers, we realized, like, hey, there's some bluegrass in here, and no, I hope not. I hope that Bruce retires as an Auburn Tiger, but again, would totally understand if that opportunity.
Of course, I'd have no ill will.
Yeah,
no ill will.
Even though you do in your house right now.
Yeah.
He's an ill will.
What do y'all think Rick Pitino would?
I mean, what a turn of events that would be.
I don't think so. I think there's a little bit too much history that's a little too recent.
Talk about oil in the water.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I don't think so.
Hey, what's Arkansas's offensive coordinator?
Bobby P.
Yeah, Bobby Petrino. Bobby Petrino went back to Arkansas.
Yes, he did. He did.
There's precedent. Now, it's not in a head coach capacity, but he's back there.
when there's a bit more time to wash away the sins. I mean, Pitino is basically like 3 or 4 years removed from all the scandals that came out of Louisville. So now his son is at New Mexico, got him to the tourney, and a lot of people, and I think he's instead of being Rick Pitino, he's Richard Pitino. I don't know. He might be a junior.
Good old Dick Pitino.
Yeah, Dick Pitino. I don't know, but he got New Mexico to the tourney, so maybe eyes on that. I don't know. Get the bloodline in there again. They had success together.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, Normie, that headline's got my head racing. I just don't call Bruce. Please, just don't call Bruce.
Leave him alone.
Just leave him alone. He's an old man. He just needs, just needs to get him a house out there on Jordan Hare and Suge Jordan somewhere and out in the country. Just let him rest. Let him rest.
Find a good lake out there. I mean, there's a bunch of them, so get a place on the lake and spend the rest of his time at Auburn. Let him let you know when he's done.
I got a cool $5 on the whatever booster money we have to give up to keep him there.
10, I'll throw in $5 as well for whoever's listening.
That's a 10.
That's $10.
That's $10.
We can just keep building this collective, Auburn. We can keep them.
I'll do $250. Just that's just because I like Bruce Pearl. Like
that's honorable. That's an honorable thing for you.
He just seems like a really nice guy.
Well, he does seem like a good dude, and then also going back to Coach speak earlier, he's one of the few that doesn't really do that. He just kind of says what's on his mind. And going back, Kenyatta, to him talking about Auburn not being Kentucky, that's he didn't rah we are basically Kentucky yada yada. He was like, no, we're not Kentucky. Y'all are nerds if you think we're Kentucky. We're working there. We want to be there. But I remember a few seasons ago. I think it was after 2019. And so the expectations are high. And he's like, nah, we're not as good. We're just not that good. And I was like, okay, I hate to hear that, but I'm glad that you're telling me that versus.
I would rather that than, oh yeah, we'll be back. And then,
and and I appreciate like Gus Malzahn when he was at Auburn. I appreciated all that he did, all the wins and the good times that we had as Malzahn as a head coach. But his, I didn't ever take much out of his press conferences or anything he said in interviews because he was so, vanilla in the way that he talked about things. And, there's not a whole lot of reason to click on those headlines when you know what he's going to say. Clicking on something for Bruce is like, what did that guy say? Because he might have said all sorts of shit.
Yeah, he's honest.
Honest.
Mm-mm. All righty. Any final thoughts on the Kentucky job or anything college basketball related?
Congrats UConn, congrats South Carolina women's team, and congrats to anybody who made it to the Final Four in either of those tournaments, because that is the elite. Alabama fans, tip of the cap.
Hey, Kenyatta, you brought up Caitlin Clark a minute ago. I saw, and I don't know if it's true, it was just one of those passing internet things, but whichever team is expected to have the first pick in the WNBA draft, they already have like 9 of 12 games nationally televised, and they've only had one in the past 2 years or something like that nationally televised. Just talking about the power that is Caitlin Clark.
She's got a hell of a brand, and she is a dog. She's great. I mean, she's and I hate to draw a male comparison to a female athlete. I just haven't watched that much women's basketball. But she's Steph Curry. She pulls up from wherever she wants. She's got a crazy fiery nature. And yeah, that doesn't shock me at all, Santana. That she's already getting that kind of hype. Now, will it translate to the WNBA like it already has for the NCAA? I don't know. We shall see. But I think the NCAA is going to miss her tremendously.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask. If you think it will translate over, and that hype kind of translate to the WNBA, but like you said,
It's a much longer season. That's the big
college
thing.
women's college basketball is going to miss her.
Oh yeah.
Well, for the fact that the head coach of the opposite team, after winning the championship, thanked publicly Caitlin Clark for her contribution to their sport, like that says a whole lot. That the opposing coach says thank you for your contribution, what you have done for our sport as a whole. That says a lot.
To beat the men's game by over 4 million viewers, that is insane. Like, I don't know if it'll ever happen again in our lifetime. I hope it does. Like, I'm all for women's sports. I want all sports to be popular and good and fun and entertaining. Whether I'm into it or not, doesn't matter. I want just people to be into it. And Caitlin Clark did that for women's college basketball this year. And hopefully it'll translate to the WNBA. I don't know. We won't know. But like you were saying, Santana, it already has had at least some trickle-down effect.
And again, I don't know how true that was. I don't know what source I got that from. I just saw it as I was scrolling the internet. But when I saw it, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. That seems about right. And as far as star power goes, I do recognize that I don't think we'll see something like her for, I don't know, for maybe ever. But as far as just the way that the game has changed, I think that you can peg Clark as, just look what Steph Curry has done to the game overall of basketball. I mean, you're watching kids that have watched Steph for as long as Steph has been playing now come into the game shooting, at 12 and 13 years old, shooting from all over the floor, and that's male and female. And so, no, I don't think we'll see anything like Caitlin Clark again anytime soon as far as star power and how what she brought to the game as far as attraction goes. But it won't shock me that the game keeps expanding the way that it has been. I mean, really, since Steph got popular, and it's not only kids coming up after watching Steph shoot threes all over the floor, but just watch what he's done to his peers, the guys that he has, got drafted with, played with in college, and so on and so forth. I mean, the game is just completely different. Everybody's shooting from all over the floor now, and I think Caitlin Clark's part of that tree there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, her effect on the game, it will be felt whether she fades into anonymity, not anonymity, but like, because, well, the WNBA does not get a lot of views. That's just a fact. Now, can she raise that there like she did in college basketball? We shall see. But no matter what, her impact will be felt for forever in her sport. She's the greatest of all time, in my opinion, at least at the NCAA. In my opinion, I've done a lot of research on it. But I did watch a lot, once again, of Iowa games and highlights just because she was that good, that she was that dynamic, and she was one hell of a shooter and one hell of a competitor.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I might tune in for some WNBA games next year, depending on where she goes. But I think we'll see.
I think the biggest impact she did have was actually, because one of the things with the WNBA and why it doesn't get as many viewers is a lot of women don't usually tend to watch basketball, but there were a lot of women tuning in to watch Caitlin Clark and paying attention, and especially tons of little girls that they're making. So hopefully that can also transition into the WNBA and then get more viewers up and actual women viewers watching the sport.
I hope that ripple effect happens.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't happen on a large scale, I think it's inevitable that it's going to happen on some scale. She was that good. I mean, she was incredible. I mean, once again, just because she was playing in the finals, they beat the men's game by over 4 million viewers. They haven't even come close to beating a men's game, like championship for the women's to championship for the men's. Not ever even close. Not only did they come close, they beat it by 4 million viewers. That's incredible.
What was last year's? Do you know what was the comparison between the two last year?
Well, I know last year for the men's was actually a little bit down from 14.82. I think it was like 14 point. It's 14 something, 14.5 or 6. And I don't know about the women's. But I think Normie's on it for us.
No,
ponder.
So it'll be the 22-23 season. It just keeps bringing up the. It's hard to because there's so many articles on this year's that it keeps bringing up this year's, and it's like, no, I want the last year's. But
yeah, same.
Looks like a 6.5 million last year.
Yep.
Or 9.9. 6.5 for the final four. And then 9.9. So they doubled, which was a record last year of 9.9 and doubled that this year.
Well, and it has been on a steady incline. Like women's NCAA tournament has been like on like a platform like that, like, you know, straight line. But because of Caitlin Clark this year and because of how actual like competitive, like you couldn't just draw chalk on the line. Like it went from that to that this year. And so good for the sport. I hope they can carry the momentum. Obviously they're losing probably the biggest star of all time, but I hope they can keep building on it. Like, yeah, get it, girl, Albiona. Let's go. Like, once again, I got no problem with women's sports. Like, but the thing is, it's going to be tough to get men to support them right now because men are watching men's sports. So, not that that's right. I'm just saying there's only so much time in a day, and so I think for women's sports to get big, it's going to have a female support behind it to push it. And I think Caitlin Clark did a lot of work in that regard, and good for her and for women's college basketball. And that's all I got to say about that.
All righty. Now switching gears, let's talk about some spring football.
Yes, sir.
So let me see. Well, I had it up. I was prepared, and then I used that tab for something else. But
happens to the best of us, Normie.
I know, right?
And the worst of us.
And the worst of us. That's actually, if it's me and or Santana, it's happening to the worst of us. But we did have some good spring football.
There were actually some exciting games this week.
Pretty much each and every one of them.
Yeah. I mean, they were all close. They all came to pretty much the very end. The most exciting game, actually, for me, wasn't the Stallions game. It was this Brahmas Showboats game.
Yeah.
I mean, Showboats pretty much had the game won, but they couldn't get the ball in the end zone. They went down to the red zone, had to settle for field goals. And then the fourth quarter came, and the Brahmas scored 20 points in the fourth quarter to win the game. Like, that was nuts. Like, they were awful most of the game. Like, for 3 quarters, it was like, oh my gosh. Like,
you don't have to be good all the time.
But
but sometimes you got to be great when it counts.
And that's definitely a feat in the UFL because of the way the clock works. Like most of the time, if you run out of bounds, clock starts back up unless there's 5 minutes left in the either half. And then
even incomplete passes at certain times in the game, the clock keeps running.
So there's always less possessions in a UFL game, but for them to come back 20 points fourth quarter, like that was very impressive. And then we had the Battlehawks Renegades. Again, another very close game. Just a back and forth. Like I said, none of these games were bad. The one I really watched was that Stallions game. Stallions need to work on their damn red zone offense.
Yeah, speaking about like not settling for field goals.
Golly. And because this game was on, the Brahmas game was on Saturday. The Stallions game was on Sunday. And I kept the entire time, it kept reminding me like, no, they can come back easily. We need to get the ball in the end zone. Like, I mean, I think we were in the end zone 6 times, had 1 touchdown.
Yeah, yeah. And then the third down percentage was just
atrocious.
Just awful.
And then I like Adrian Martinez. I think he's a very explosive guy. But he's thrown a pick in the end zone 2 games in a row.
Look, I know I'm not a big time analyst and I'm not a football coach or anything. I sit here and do this with you guys, but let me just tell you, Normie, I think that's not very good.
Yeah, right. But 2 weeks in a row, and he's done it, and he Skip's still trying to do this 2 quarterback system. Give it to Corral. Corral's proven he is the more balanced. And if you want to have some packages with Adrian Martinez, fine, do them. But this whole like giving one quarterback 2 possessions, then the next quarterback 2 possessions, like that stuff, like it's time to hand the reins to somebody, and it needs to be Matt Corral. I think at this point, I think that's why you're having these kind of stalls in the red zone, because I mean the consistency wise of not having the same quarterback back there. And again, throwing a pick in the damn end zone. And the funny thing on that play, so they actually talked about it in the broadcast. So in the UFL, their challenges, you can challenge anything. Like there's no like, oh, you can only challenge certain things. You can challenge anything in the UFL. A coach can. So they were talking about in the broadcast on that pick in the end zone. The Stallions guard false started. So if Skip or somebody in the booth would have called it and called down to him to challenge, Skip could have challenged that we had a false start, and we could have gotten the penalty and gotten the ball back.
Yep.
That's a fun rule. I like that.
That is fun. That is playing chess at that point.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that.
That's sacrificing your queen to take a bishop type thing, but it's playing the long game.
Yeah.
When they were talking about that, I didn't realize that Dean Blandino until I watched that game this weekend, Normie. Not only is he like a somewhat contact for the broadcast booth, he is actually in charge of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's running, like all reviews run through him, and so you get to hear him live.
It's him and Mike Pereira.
Is it Mike Pereira as well? I didn't see Pereira. But,
with the USFL, it was always Pereira. But it's both of them. But they do the same thing. And the cool thing about it is when you're at the game, during the challenges, they put the broadcast on the Jumbotron. So you can sit there and see all the replay guy, Mike Pereira, or I can't. What's the other guy's name?
Dean Blandino.
So you could see what they would have on the broadcast of them going through the play and everything. And I always thought that was cool too.
No, it was very obviously I've only been to the one game. You've been to dozens probably at this
I've been to
point.
a lot of spring football.
But just watching it on TV and like listening to him like talking to the crew, and then also like talking to the crew, the on-field refereeing crew, and then also talking to the booth, and it's like, yep, there's that. Like, so he's doing his job first for like the game at hand, and then I think it was one of the analyst or play-by-play, was like, what if he had challenged that false start by the guard? And it was like, he would have won. It would have been an interesting thing, but it actually would have worked.
Yeah.
Didn't happen this go around, but now that just being out in the ether, I bet that you will see that happen at some point as long as this league is going with these current rules. Somebody will utilize that loophole, which I think is brilliant. That's what loopholes exist for.
Yeah. No, it's
that adds some entertainment too. Like that becomes like you start cheer, like you see it and you can call it from your couch and you're like, throw the flag, Skip, throw the flag, like challenge.
We'll go backwards 5-10 yards, doesn't matter.
We got the ball.
We got the ball, that's points.
Oh man. But yeah, that was such a cool thing. And I do like too, like, because they'll show like Blandino or Pereira like talking to the ref. And I do like Blandino's thing with the quarterback sliding. I hate that whole, like, if the defender is like already engaged and then the quarterback slides and he gets hit and they throw a penalty. Like, I think that's such bullcrap. I've always thought that was bullcrap. It's one of those, like, tying one of the arms of the defense. And Blandino actually got one of those. They didn't call it on the field, but then they had him in the booth kind of just looking at it. And he was like, oh yeah, the defender was already engaged, ready to make a tackle. Then the quarterback slid. So that's on the quarterback. Like, good, no call. Now, Pereira, on the other hand, he's like more of, oh, he slid, he got hit, that's a penalty. Like, I hate that crap.
I'm with you there, Normie. I think Santana's there too. I mean, the defense already has their hands tied basically as much as you possibly can. Like, you've already asked them to basically change the target level from neck to waist. For full-grown men that are the same size and or bigger than you, and you have to hit them like right square. Like, you can't like cut the lower body and take leverage that way. You can't like come up the top, And I'm fine with the head and shoulders area because that actually doesn't give you leverage anyways. That actually does seem like you're just basically out there head hunting. But like, if you're taken away from the waist down, how many times, especially watching for the high school, Santana and I both went to the same high school. We were little bitty compared to basically everybody. Like, so our tackles came below the waist. Like, you get the guys at the legs. Like, if you square them up on the hips, the strongest point at their body, you might get flattened. Probably going to get flattened, honestly. Like, take them at the thighs, knees, calves, whatever. But they've been robbed of that, and now, so you've got a quarterback lined up who has not decided to get down in time, and you're already getting horizontal, and then they go down, and so therefore your trajectory just is at their head neck area. That, there's too many restrictions as is.
I'll be honest, as a QB, I would be sliding at them all day if the rule was against the defense. Definite unfair advantage. Yep. And we got Parrot Kitty. She also said earlier, now my tinfoil hat crew, do we think that the Rock could be trying to keep it entertaining with the Stallions and the nail-biting plays? Not this game. This game, it was definitely the Stallions themselves. Now, I had some theories last year because there were some games, especially one that Stallions lost, where it was like the Stallions had like 13 penalties and the other team had 0. I'm like, I don't know about that one. little iffy there, but I don't think so. I think they're just trying to make it as right now it's pretty entertaining as it is. Like I don't think they really need to do anything to like make it more entertaining or any behind the scenes things like the NFL does, that's scripted and all. But I'm kidding. Slightly. I have theories, but she says a little sus. But yeah, I don't think so. Now if the Stallions win again and then next year, like maybe look out. I've always had a theory about Alabama is that I don't think that the refs like I don't think it's like a cheat thing or like they don't call things or they call other things. I've always thought it was more of they always held Alabama to a higher standard and they always got less of the benefit of the doubt. If you get what I mean. If it was like a close, like one-on-one wide receiver DB battle and Alabama's on defense, it's probably going to be pass interference. And the exact same play could happen reversed and they would be no call. I don't know. I've always had a theory that it's one of those kind of like subconscious, like we got to hold them to a higher standard kind of thing. I don't know.
No, I'm messing with you, Normie.
That's just me. I've watched a lot of Alabama games and a lot of other games and been like, oh wow, in an Alabama game that would have been like, a 15-yard penalty, but
very, very specifically after watching the NBA, because the NBA is star power driven, and also 5-on-5 rather than 11-on-11. So very focused in you like, but you can go back to like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and LeBron James still playing, Shaquille O'Neal, like guys like that. Like they would get fouls called on them, like that. It seemed ridiculous. Yeah. And then you'd see them get like hacked or held or moved about that they wouldn't have called or they didn't call. But the only it's very specifically for like the bigger of those two players, Shaq and LeBron, like where it's like, man, like a smaller guy would have gotten that call. Or what it comes down to is it comes out in the wash, and you can see that the whoever has the ball in their hand the most, whether it's a star player or just a very good point guard whose name you might forget in the next couple of years, if you're the one handling the ball the most, there's going to be a lot of missed calls. There's going to be a lot of calls that like look like bullshit, but it all comes out in the wash.
Oh yeah.
And that's how I feel. Like, yes, I've watched Alabama football enough to be like, man, yeah, like maybe if that had been another team, they might have gotten that call. But I've seen some was like, man, only Alabama gets that call. So
as an Auburn and 49ers fan specifically, holding doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
so,
no, see like that, like
no, holding does not exist. As an Aaron Donald fan, holding stopped existing.
Well, really, I guess just at this point, as a football fan, it just doesn't work anymore. Like that, or it just doesn't exist.
Might as well do away with the penalty.
For sure. Telling or talking to Cody about it, our resident Detroit Lions fan with their brand new toy, Aiden Hutchinson, who had such a great year this year.
Mm-hmm.
He gets held every time. He gets held by multiple people every time. I'm like, buddy, just strap on in, dude.
Yeah, it's got to be just absolutely and utterly blatant before
and
even then sometimes
I was about to say, fuck that, Normie. Like, just go back and watch the Super Bowl. It does not have to be blatant. You know what? Let's move on. This is
still a little raw.
Yeah,
a little raw.
You ever do that? You ever think like, oh, I can talk about something without any bias, and then all of a sudden it just starts flooding in on you, just coming in and
all the time.
Mm-hmm. Or like our center who had already left for Ohio State before, the championship game was.
Oh, we were talking about this the other day. We looked at a list of top what was it, Kenyatta? I don't remember how many teams it was, but I guess just like the ranking of the teams that have won the national championship since the playoffs have started. And this Michigan team hit like number 6. I was like, that can't be.
Yeah.
I mean, that Michigan team was pretty good, but they should have lost to Bama. And I don't think that anybody would have put that Bama team at the number 6 team of all time that have won a national championship in the playoffs.
Bama fans sure wouldn't. Bama fans probably wouldn't put that in the top 6, and then Saban.
No, that's the thing.
That was the worst. That was the worst team Nick Saban got to a playoff / national championship.
Which just shows the level of what type of coach that guy is. But
agreed.
But yeah, I mean, if they had won the whole thing, which I imagine had they beaten Michigan, that they do go on and to win the whole thing.
I think they would have smacked them up.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan did, and I think that they should have beat Michigan by 2 touchdowns. And again, not to take anything away from Michigan, their offensive and defensive lines were great. Their running game was great. They had athletic AJ McCarron playing quarterback, and so I like the Michigan team. I like what they had set up and everything, but I think they should have lost to Bama, and then I don't think that Bama team would have been ranked above the other couple of Bama teams that the Michigan team was ranked above. So, I don't even remember what list that was, Kenyatta. I don't know if you do or not either, but I disagreed.
I remember number 1 was 2019 LSU. Number 2 was 2020 Alabama. And
I like that. I think that's fair.
Yeah, that LSU
team was damn good.
Yeah.
Now that 2020 Alabama team was really good, but that LSU one was just damn good.
I would almost interchange that because of the circumstances behind the 2020 Alabama team, given the COVID and everything. That was a 10-game SEC only schedule, and they went undefeated.
11.
Yeah, I mean, with the SEC championship, like 10 regular season, 11 with the SEC championship, and then also still played in the play. Like it was pretty incredible. It was special. Now, if they matched up with the 2019 LSU team, I don't know. I just know that the deck was stacked against them. More like it was stacked against everybody, though, I suppose. So.
That was a crazy year. It was fun, but it was crazy.
Auburn was not great.
Auburn has not been great, buddy. I'm sorry.
Hey, y'all made it to a bowl.
Yeah, they did. We sure did. They made it.
They made it.
I don't like participation trophies, Normie. Especially when we get it and lose.
Who did y'all even play?
Maryland.
Maryland, that's right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. I wish I wouldn't have brought that up now, because I do remember that now.
It was not close.
Because was Tulia playing that one?
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't even lose to like their star quarterback.
Yeah, still don't worry though. Still got diced up.
Yep.
So
Didn't matter.
I feel good about where we're going after last weekend, though. I know that
I was just about to say, like, before we get off of before we move on to NFL, how was the Auburn A-Day game?
There was a lot that I enjoyed. I think that, obviously, I think that a lot of people come out of spring games. I mean, obviously, I still have no idea what's going to happen, right? Like, we watched a very vanilla offensive scheme, a very vanilla defensive scheme. It was a fun watch for anybody listening or that didn't watch. We spotted the defense 27 points, and the offense had to come back from 27. Our true freshman kicker kicked 7 field goals, including a 58-yard game winner to end at 28-27. So that was exciting. Going back to red zone issues, and as a Niners and Auburn fan, red zone issues are very familiar to me.
Well, if you're a Stallions fan, it's looking like that's going to be too.
Yeah, and I am. So maybe it's me. I don't know. Maybe I need to just give up on sports. But yeah, so the offense struggled in the red zone, and our just baby boy kicker came out there and just hit every single one of his kicks, including a
You're talking
bomb to
about fake
win the
name
game.
Magoo?
Fake name Magoo, Towns Magoo, Auburn High School phenom, goes out there.
Fake name. No one's named Towns Magoo.
Who was the
No
other?
one's named that.
Who was the other fake name we came across today?
Oh, we came across a couple of them. Looking at, I can't remember what we're looking at.
There's people out there just be naming people stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's wild out there in the name game.
Like,
but
John
yeah, so
Soul. It doesn't matter. Keep going.
yeah, just made up names. But yeah, the quarterbacks. Peyton Thorne went 9 of 13 for like 130 and a touchdown. He looked better, looked more comfortable. I liked what I saw from the offense because it looked very much like the RPO was either we were going to hand it off or chunk it downfield, which was fun to see. Cam Coleman, the true freshman phenom.
I liked what I saw from Cameron Coleman.
Yeah, and I'm glad. My favorite thing about the 8A game was that he was featured in the offense, which is awesome for a fan who, came off of last season with a sick stomach, and then you hear nothing about, or all you hear about is these receivers that we've recruited and how good this receiving recruiting class was. And Cam Coleman gets to spring. He's an early enrollee and goes through spring practice, and nothing or only good things have come out about him in spring. And then so he started with the one offense. He had one reception for, I think, 1 yard in the first drive. And on that play, I think he was out of position on the route, so he had to adjust real bad to the ball. It was a 1 yard reception, but I looked at Kenyatta and I was like, that was a pretty good, just the body control.
Mm-hmm.
He had to get horizontal to get that ball.
Right. He had to dig it out of the dirt and get horizontal. It was great. AJ Green is so far my early comparison to this guy, just the way that he's built, his length, the way that and I don't mean to say that and like this guy is going to be AJ Green.
Yeah.
The way that his body moves, the way that he attacks the football, the way that he adjusts to the football, his body control overall. He's lean. He wears number 8, so that's there's a lot going on that lends to that particular comparison. But he immediately came out on not the next series, but the series after. And the first play of the series, Hank Brown, our redshirt freshman quarterback, launches a 49-yard bomb that he has to lay out for on a post. And he goes out there and gets it. He had 2 steps on the corner. He finishes the day with 4 receptions for 90-something yards and a touchdown. His touchdown came on a 30-something yard throw that he had to fight through the defender to get to. He did everything that we as Auburn fans wanted to see, because as a program that is very thirsty and very desperate for a big time receiver, for him to come out with all the hype and then perform the way that he did, I think that got all of our mouths salivating, because Normie, actually, Kenyatta and I went back and I specifically looked at Alabama and Ohio State as what their overall like all-time receiving leaders look like. And you have to get into around the 50 or top 40 before somebody didn't have a career 1,000 yard season, or like a career 1,000 yards. And with Auburn, it's like you get to 19 and and like it's not great. And the guys at the top of the list were great. Like I knew all the, like it's a great top of the list. But then you get into like, I think Mario Fannin, who played running back. I mean, he played a dual role for Auburn, but he was at like number 27 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but when you just start getting to guys that are not big time receivers really early in that list, and it just tells you what kind of drought Auburn has been in as far as receivers go. I don't think we've had a 1,000-yard receiver since the 90s at some point. So just to see the young kid again, he's a baby boy. Like he literally left A-Day and left the press part of A-Day early because he had prom that night. So we're talking about like that level of kid coming in and carrying a lot of expectation and carrying a lot of weight. But outside of him, I thought that the defense, all lines of the defense looked good and aggressive. I'm really excited about the defensive backs. We're replacing 4 out of the 5 guys that start back there, all of which should be draft eligible, or all of which should be drafted, if not get a chance at a roster this upcoming NFL season. And then the quarterback specifically, Peyton looked more comfortable. He, like I said, 9 of 13. Now the misses that he did have were reminiscent of last year, where it's just kind of like, okay, but the pass before this was really good. What happened there? The other guys on I saw a lot of good from the quarterback position. A lot of zip on the ball, a lot of athleticism, a lot of good decision making. Even though there were some accuracy issues, like consistent accuracy issues, but not anything. They didn't really put the ball in jeopardy, if we can say that. Like that's at least something that I can say, that even though they were missing on some shorter throws, some kind of layup type throws, they weren't throwing it to the defenders, and I think that's a positive. Again, not a master football analyst, but I do think that if you don't throw it to the other team, that's a positive.
And if you catch the ball with your hands,
that would be good.
Be a good receiver.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be something positive to take away.
All right. Moving on with our football. We got NFL time, which is draft time. Yep. Elbiona says, hey, Will Baca. So I know, Santana, you were probably chomping at the bit.
Well, I'm excited. You know how I feel about this time of year.
Oh yeah.
This is
your spring football.
Right. Well, and it is my spring football, though I am going to make spring football my spring football. I'm a Stallion supporter, but for my whole life, it has been, or at least my whole life that I've cared, it has been Super Bowl's over, dead period, combine, A-Day, draft, really long dead period. Like that's how I look about the football season. So when we start getting closer to draft time, I get extremely excited. 2 Thursdays from now, we can talk about this off air, but I don't know if we want to do a show during the draft or what we want to do. But Thursday, when the draft tips off, I will be on my couch in front of my TV with some sort of food and beverage. It's because this is the last we get. This is the last little bit of football we get until a long off season of ifs, whats, coulds, and shoulds, and whatnot. And so yeah, I mean, where I'm at right now is just what do y'all want to talk about? I've got a list of quarterback stuff we can go through. We can talk about a couple of steals that I'm looking forward to. We can talk about team draft needs. We can talk live on air about what we want to do next week. Are we going to do the way we did the mock draft the last time we did it, or whatever y'all want to do?
Obiana votes the draft stream.
I'm down. We can do it. Whatever. It's just going. And we may want to do multiple episodes next week. I don't know what y'all want to do about that. I don't know what everybody's time frame looks like, but with having the draft on Thursday, and I don't know if we do a mock draft next week, I don't know how long that'll take, if it'll take 2 days or what. So, but again, something we can talk about not in the middle of the show.
Well, I mean, heck, we're here now. I don't care.
Yeah, well,
okay. So, anybody, all of our 4 viewers, or many viewers that we have, what's this mean for us and our many fans? You guys watch Futurama? There's just a bunch of fans blowing Leland's hair back. No, I'm fine for whatever. I know if we want to really get into the nitty gritty, Santana's got notes on basically all the big quarterbacks right now. Now we're not going to have time between now and the mock draft to do that, or are you doing more of that research for an article? Also, anybody who's looking to read Santana's work right now, could throw a link in the description for your medium, or would you rather it be on Warblogle?
Both. Warblogle for whatever I write about Auburn football, and my medium for whatever I write about for my pro stuff at this point.
Okay. Now, I've watched this man do extensive research for the quarterbacks, and we've talked about the wide receivers, both incredibly deep. Apparently, offensive tackles and apparently just an incredibly deep draft class in and of itself.
Well, I think we talk about this pretty regularly, just that the way that the exposure to football is these days, the way that the exposure to sports science and sports health is these days, I don't really see like a regression in what we're going to get going forward in the athletes. And I could be way off on that, but for me, it just feels like quarterbacks have gotten way better, receivers have gotten way better, defensive backs. Like every year, it seems like this is a deep class for this position. It's like, yeah, everybody starts working to get to that level so much earlier than they ever did before. And you have 7, 8-year-olds watching film and watching technique. And just because you can do it on your phone, you have, if you have Instagram and follow a player on Instagram, you watch his workout from the time that you're 5, 6, 7, 8, who I don't know how old people are giving phones to kids these days, but just the overall exposure and the overall science and medicine behind sports these days, I think that you're basically going to just keep producing these types of draft classes where these kids have worked forever to be at this level. And I think that it shows. I mean, you're just look at the way that quarterback positions have changed. Just these guys are seeing what's happening and putting it into practice at such an earlier stage of life. I think over the years, people have talked about how the NFL used to bleed down to college and high school. And then now it seems that high school and college bleed up just as far as schematics go and the way that teams attack the offense or teams attack the defense, and I think that it allows players to translate more immediately than they used to. And I think that you're seeing that production now.
Yeah, 100%. Now, here's the thing. It's still a crapshoot. And it looks like it's going to be quarterbacks quick, fast, and heavy this draft.
Yeah.
Would it be giving away too much if you give a preview of your quarterback breakdowns?
Oh, hell no. No, we'll do it. Do you want my least favorite or my most favorite first?
Let's go from least to most.
I agree with that.
Okay, let me get my shit together.
Because I think I know who the least is.
Okay, let's start with my least, and then
okay.
also
I want to hear Normie's guess on this too. I want to see if Normie can do this.
Oh yeah, just guess my order going forward. Guess
how
one,
many
and
do you have? You got 5 and 4.
I got 6.
Okay, you got 6. Okay, so Normie.
Yeah, I did Bo Nix today.
You say what you think is number 6. This will be fun.
I think his 6 is JJ McCarthy.
Tis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's my 6 too. Like if I were my top 6, JJ McCarthy would definitely be 6.
Okay, let me talk to why I think that people are in love with this guy. He is a confident thrower. Like when he decides he's going to make a throw, I think he knows that it's going to go where he wants it to go and it's going to work out in his brain. I think that is just watching his tape. The dude pulls the trigger. He's good at operating within the system that he operated in. And that dude, look, before I get into any of this, a lot of this is going to be positive. Okay. I've just gotten to a point in my life where I just can't be mean about children. Okay. And all these guys to me are significantly younger. So I'm going to be nice. But when I'm thinking about taking a quarterback in the top 5 of the draft, am I thinking about a guy who, like, I'm looking for a dynamic passer, a dynamic game-changing level of player. JJ McCarthy, again, confident thrower. My first note was confident thrower. My second note was expects to throw completions. And if you go watch his tape, that's what it feels like, is the guy is letting the ball go with an expectation that it is going to a completion. And he does complete a lot of passes, but he's not asked to do a whole lot. He's got good pocket presence. I think that he's adequately assessed as far as athleticism goes. I think I said on this show a couple weeks ago that he was pretty athletic, and I thought that he was like a quote unquote running quarterback, because when again, Kenyatta help me up with the guy's name that was there before. Loved his name. Guy that started before him went to
McNamara.
Yeah, Cade
Cade
McNamara.
McNamara.
See,
Great
it's such a fucking
Mhm.
great name, and I forget it for whatever reason. But yeah, so Cade McNamara was there. McCarthy would come in when he was younger, and he would either like run a power or a sweep or something. So in my head, I thought, oh, this guy's like really athletic. No, watching the tape, he's just pretty athletic. Like there's nothing wrong with his athleticism. And if I was drafting a quarterback and you said this is his level of athleticism, I would go, yeah, it's pretty athletic. I like it. That's great. But he's not a dynamic athlete. I think that he's very gutsy. He seems like a tough kid. I've got Pocket again written down a few times, so he apparently in my tape study was doing a real good job of maneuvering in the pocket. One of the big things, and I think I've got this written down for a few of my guys, is that he showed up when it mattered. So on 3rd and 4th down, he's making plays when it matters. He's making plays late in the 4th quarter. He's doing it when it matters. And what I can say about that is that, and Normie, I've said this a million times, I think that comparing him to AJ McCarron was outstanding because it reminds me of exactly how AJ was able to operate in that Bama system at the time. Handoff, bomb it.
Play action bomb.
Right. Nice completion here. Move the sticks, not do anything. Like there's nothing about his arm that excites you. There's nothing about his overall accuracy that excites you.
Third and 6, 3rd and 7. He's going to get you that pass to get the first down.
He's going to get you a completion. He's going to get it out to Roman Wilson, who's a guy that we can talk about. If we don't talk about him this week, we can talk about next week. They had a great stable of backs. The offensive line was great. The defense kept him out of trouble a lot of times. Again, nothing negative about this kid as far as him as a player. He seems like a good kid. His teammates seem to love him, so nothing about him as a person. It's just if I'm going to, especially because the rumors are that Minnesota's trying to trade up specifically for him, if I'm going to trade up for a quarterback, it's not this vanilla bean latte that you get at Starbucks. This is this guy. If you told me if my team drafted J.J. McCarthy in the late 2nd to early 5th round, I would go, hell yeah, that's value. And as y'all know, I'm a huge value guy when it comes to this shit. In my negatives for him, I have written that I hate the way that he throws the football. Like I hate the way that it looks. That can be a personal thing. There's nothing really about it that it just seems it's one of those labor intensive. I don't know if y'all understand if you watch a quarterback and it just seems like it really seemed like it took a lot for him to get that ball out type thing.
Yeah.
And then I've got benefited from his surroundings, which I don't necessarily even mean the players that he played with, but the ability to turn around and hand it off more often than you throw it. I don't think that people recognize what kind of impact that can have. I mean,
ask Jay Coker. He got a national championship out of it.
For sure. And I mean, ask AJ McCarron. He made
it for days.
He did. He was tough. And
did.
this kid's tough. Like, and that's something that I like to look for in the quarterback too. Like, how many times can you get punched in the mouth and stand back up again? That's a big deal. And this guy's got it. Can he be successful? Absolutely. Will he be successful and worthy of a 5th round or a top 5 pick? I do not believe so. I think that it would. You're really missing if you stretch for that guy. If he falls to you in a situation that you like, and I will again use the term value a lot throughout this next few players, because the way that I think about this group right now is, yes, the top 2 or 3 guys may be like a good step up from the next 2 or 3 guys, but if you can spend the pick on, would you rather spend the top 5 pick on one of these top guys, or trade out of that and get another guy in the back end of the 1st round or even early in the 2nd round? Like what's the gap there is what for a lot of these guys.
Or you get a 1st round pick at some other position that is not the quarterback position, which can easily translate to starting day 1.
Again, I said before they traded Justin Fields that if I were the Bears, I'm trading number 1, keeping Fields, using number 1 to gain a lot more capital, and then using the other top 10 pick I have for whatever position of need they decide at the time. But there are teams that are going to take one of these top 3 guys, whether it be Caleb, Jaden, or Drake May, that if you like, is it really, what are you gaining value wise if you spend that high pick on that guy where you could have either moved from the spot or waited and ended up with a Penix or a Bo Nix or something like that? And these are just the guys that I've done. There's a bunch of guys later in this draft that could also contribute.
Spencer Rattler, Devin Leary, Milton.
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Travis is somebody that Kenyatta and I keep talking about.
Yeah.
He cost the team a playoff spot.
Yeah, like he got hurt. And then he also didn't have like a structural issue in his injury. I thought, just in my brain, like I'm sure at the time I remember it happening.
It's just a break, right?
It was just a break. I thought that he had blown a knee out or something that takes, you get a negative connotation around that when something like that happens. But no, it's a break. So he should be ready for, I don't know. I'm not a medical guy. I couldn't tell you. But yeah, there's guys in this draft that, you're going to take the top 3. JJ McCarthy, just by the way that things are sounding, it sounds like the guy's going to go in the top 10. Somebody's going to trade up to go get him. Fine. That's fine. And it's, again, with the Vikings, like I see this guy being productive and successful in an environment such as the Vikings with this, the wide zone play action. I talk about it all the time about how that benefits quarterbacks. I think that Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, like they've got guys over there that will make his life easier. But if you could have him at 15 plus versus getting him like giving up a bunch of capital to get him at 5, like that's my big issue with McCarthy. It has nothing to do really with him, because I think and I don't have it written down here, but I think his height for me would be like what we've seen from Brock Purdy, because that's that level of athleticism, level of talent, like overall physical talent that I can see. If his brain translates the way that Brock Purdy's has, and he gets in a good system the way that Brock Purdy has, and the environment around him is positive the way that Brock's is, I could see him reaching that point. I could also see him being somebody that just ends up an A.J. McCarron overall. Like his low would be A.J. McCarron, where he is a quality backup, but he should probably be spending time in the UFL in the spring.
Or even like he gets thrown to the Wolves the first game and comes like a Zach Wilson.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I was thinking. Like,
if you draft him to be your day one guy, I think you're missing. If you draft him to be a guy that we'll see maybe down the road, then maybe you're
2 or 3 years.
Again, we're looking for the value in picks, right? So if you draft him early, it's going to be a bust. But if you draft him in a second round or later, then that's a project. Like somebody that has a guy start like if Flacco was this is totally hypothetical. This is just the first name that popped in my head, but he gets drafted and sits behind somebody like Flacco, who's clearly not going to be the guy for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that benefits him in his development. I think that Harbaugh has ruined this kid. Like if you go back to the timeline that Jim Harbaugh got hired and said, yeah, he's the best quarterback in the draft, I would take him if I needed a quarterback, yada, yada. I mean, he said some things like that. And then that's when this guy's climb started. Again, it's just the NFL in this time of year is just so much word game and wordsmith bullshit that you can't trust anything. But Jim Harbaugh said it, and then he starts climbing and climbing. He went from somebody that I would have, again, I have him as my 6th, and I haven't even done the rest of the quarterbacks in the class. His overall, like, they didn't ask him to do much. He threw less than 24 times a game, I'm pretty sure. His overall accuracy, and which I'm really looking for consistency in accuracy. It's not so much of what you can do, because my next guy I think we'll get into is somebody who can put the ball wherever he wants to on a dime, just not every single play. And that's what you're looking for, is a more consistent ability. So I don't think that his overall consistent ability is there. Again, there's nothing about on the tape that makes you go, holy shit, look at that guy's arm or anything like that. There's nothing that he does with his legs that makes you go, holy shit, look at his. But he's played a good bit of football. He just won a national championship. He's played in a system that is very pro style. Do I think that he will exist in the NFL for a while? Sure. I just don't draft him in the top 5 is really all I'm saying about him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 5, Normie. Guess number 5.
Michael Penix.
Yes, sir. All right, let me tell you about Michael Penix. First off, he's a guy that at Indiana I consider to be a much better runner than what he ended up being at Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And at Indiana, I considered him to be a more pure runner than what he was at Washington. His maybe multiple injuries, or
I
at
was
least
going to say.
I thought that multiple injuries had hindered his ability to move, and then he ran a 4.46 at his pro day.
I think it was his coaches.
Well, and
making
if you
pulling back on the movement.
Well, and if you watch the tape, he's a willing runner, is what I classified. Like, he's willing to do it. But he does look stiff as a runner, like if you just look at him as a runner, not as a quarterback mover, but just as somebody who's running the football, does seem a little bit stiff. That's not something that I would take away from him as far as drafting him goes. What I did get irritated with him watching, though, was, again, what I just said, consistency in his accuracy. This guy, and in my notes, and it'll go in my article whenever I write it, is he's all state. He can put the ball wherever he wants out there. A little bit of Wedding Crashers reference.
Yeah.
Because he can. The dude is maybe, when it comes to, he may be the most accurate quarterback in the draft. When, like, 4 out of 10 throws, right? So 4 out of those 10 throws, he can put it wherever he wants to on a dime. He's that level of accurate. But those other 6 passes are wildly inaccurate. I took away from watching his tape. And again, just to clarify, I only watched 2024 tape. I don't have access to like the really good all 22s. And then also, I've got other shit going on in my life. So I don't have the time to break it down the way that I would really like to. But just for what I have watched, I think that his total consistency in his accuracy is, and I said this to Kenyatta, borderline undraftable. Like, if I hadn't watched him play football this year, I would say, let's not even do it. If I just watched the tape, but watching him play, I know that the guy's got it. So, draft him, give the kid a chance. But injury concerns are obviously there. He's older, which can be a concern for people. I do think that he has a quick and compact release. He shows the ability to move and reset to throw. He's a dart thrower. He's really good at spot throws, back shoulders, throwing in the pocket of the cover 2. I've got listed here that his mechanics can get sloppy. And his mechanics can get sloppy, and he struggles with the changeup throw. His ability to put it on a dime and throw a dart is there at all times, but his being able to layer it over the middle, he struggles to layer it over the middle of the field with the linebackers. Lazy with his feet. I also have here Roma Dunze is good, which means that Roma Dunze made a good play while I was watching. He can push the ball down the field. He's got a great deep ball. Has no problem giving his guy a chance. I wouldn't either if it was Roma Dunze. And I had written here at one point, if Washington wasn't sold on a top guy, could be a good fit with Cliff Kingsbury. And if you just watch and you could look out for this, Normie, with Bama's future offense. But if you watch what their offense was in Washington, it is very much a very widespread and dink and dunk with the occasional launch the ball down the field. Very reminiscent, very air raid reminiscent, which would fit with Cliff Kingsbury. So if Washington didn't like one of the top guys, took an offensive lineman or traded out of that spot, and then took Penix, and again, 15 plus. That's what I'm saying. If you take any of these guys 15 plus, I think you're getting some value for it, especially with the way that the run on the quarterback position is going to happen. And then my next note is I don't think he puts the ball in danger as much as he struggles with the consistent accuracy. So what I'm seeing there is that it's not so much that he's throwing the ball and putting the ball in jeopardy as far as interceptions. It's more of just missing the throw overall, which, I mean, good misses are a thing. It depends on where you throw the football, but you can throw it high and away or low and away or low and close or whatever. So really the thing that stuck out to me and what made him at the time before I did McCarthy my lowest guy was just the inconsistency on the accuracy. I think that there are systems that he would fit in great. A lot of people, and I think this is easy just because Tua's left-handed, a lot of people had said if Mike McDaniels would take him in the second round and allow him to be there with Tua, that would be a great fit for him. I think that's easy specifically because of the left-handed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kenyatta, I think I told you maybe like at his height could be like a Phillip Rivers. That's something that he reminded me of.
Wow.
Just the style of play overall, the way that he moves and shuffles and exists in the pocket, the way that he pushes the ball when he wants to, his ability to throw extremely accurate with followed up by like a what the hell throw was that type of thing. So I again, it becomes about value. If you take Penix in the top 10, you're missing the value. If you take Penix in the second round or later, then you're probably going to get somebody worth having. I've seen him linked to Las Vegas. I don't know where they would pick him, but if you put Aiden O'Connell and Penix in the same camp, I think that you're probably looking at a decent, again, just value structure of your quarterback position.
Oakland picks 13.
See, I think that would be too early. He's right there that's right there on the cusp, but
and then second round it'll be 44.
Yeah, so if you got Penix at 44 as your potential franchise leader going forward, and he doesn't work out, bummer. But if you take him at 13 or anything higher than that, and he doesn't work out, that's a big deal. That's the difference there.
Norm, you got a guess on number 4?
Also, this one will be harder for you to guess because I haven't really decided, but I think I know where I'm at.
Drake May.
Okay. It's between Drake May for me. It's not even between Drake and Bo. Here's just my issues, or not my issues. Just here's my thoughts. Okay, Bo Nix. Let's just call it Bo. Like Bo's the next guy. Let's just call it Bo. He is a guy not getting a lot of love right now.
No, he is not.
and which is crazy because some of these other, again, McCarthy and Penix both getting the love and Bo not getting it. And you watch the film and you go, what's that? Oh, he left.
BRB.
Yeah. So it's not, I don't understand why the other two would get so much love when Bo wouldn't. I think he's a guy that has clearly put a lot of tape on, or put a lot of ball on tape. He's played a lot of football, which I think is positive. If we're about to talk about Jaden Daniels here in a little bit, and that they remind me of each other in the way that you go from being pretty good at one place, being able to succeed somewhat in one place, and then you move on and you find your groove and you really become something different and put on tape that you are something different. I think that Bo did that. Mm-hmm. I loved him at Auburn for his athletic ability, his toughness, his grit, his competitiveness. I think the kid has an extremely underrated arm. The guy can, as a matter of fact, one of my negatives on my notes is that he gets kind of dead feet because he's able to do what he wants to with his arm, especially watching him in the Oregon offense, another version of a spread offense. He's able to pick and choose his throws in a way that he can just flick it with his wrist or with his arm and not really use his feet, which is a great thing to be able to do, but not where you want to make your living, obviously.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in my notes, I say he can get dead in his feet relying on his arm alone. And then the very next note is understandable because he's got a really good arm. and that shows he definitely has the ability to launch the ball wherever he wants to on the field, which I think a lot of people don't have him ranked highly on, because if you look at his Auburn film, you don't see a whole lot of accuracy. You don't see a whole lot of wow throws, but they're definitely there and have been since he was in high school. Whatever Elite 11 or whatever quarterback competition he was in, I remember watching him doing one of those like Pro Bowls where they got the wheels and the guys on the carts, and you know what I'm talking about, like target practice throwing, and he dominated. Like that's the level of this arm talent, is he can really do whatever he wants to with the football, and I just don't think that anybody really recognizes that. And yes, there are a lot of situations, especially watching the Oregon film, where he's throwing to wide open guys, But there are situations where he's not. There's situations where he has to move out of the pocket. There's situations where he has to run the football. I think that he's probably an underrated athlete too. I think that if at Auburn when Malzahn was there, had he used him the way that he has used all of his other running quarterbacks, I think we're talking about different levels of success as what he could have had under Malzahn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what my biggest note that I have for him is that I don't get to see the all-22, or I mean I could, but I haven't dug deep into the all-22, so I'm not seeing where the ball should go. So I'm really just looking at mechanics and what they're doing with their arm and what they're doing in the pocket, and some of these things that what we all see on Saturdays, I'm only able to see like what he's doing. Where the ball is getting delivered, how it's getting delivered, how quickly it's being delivered, what he's doing, maneuvering in the pocket, his athleticism, yada, 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 yada. And what I have here is that I can't see where he should be going with the football. But that set aside, I really just do not see that much difference between Bo Nix and the guys ahead of him as far as everybody, or how everybody else has the quarterbacks ranked. My ceiling for him, Kenyatta, you'll love this, is maybe a bigger, more athletic, stronger arm Jeff Garcia. Like just the way that he moves about the pocket, the way that he moves and throws the ball without his feet.
I get that, actually. I really do.
Look,
that makes sense.
And we joke about Jeff Garcia, but go watch. That dude was a dog. Okay, Jeff Garcia.
He's got a lot of like top 5, if not like actually record holding in 49ers history, and that is a storied franchise.
Brock Purdy,
nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy just broke his single season passing record in San Francisco.
Yeah.
No, look, Jeff Garcia was real, and I think Bo has a lot of that, like the grit, the competitiveness, the ability. Just he's a bigger, better arm than Jeff was. Like so I think so far that's where my ceiling is for Bo. When I actually put all this together and write something about it, I'll find a floor. But otherwise, like realistic, and this is where I'm getting at, but whether it's Penix or Nix or whoever you want to say, and Normie, the next guy we are talking about is Drake May. Do you want to take Drake May at 2 or 3, or do you want to take Bo Nix or Michael Penix? Again, 15 plus. And
I take Bo Nix. I've watched a lot of Bo Nix over the years, and I've watched Bo Nix go from good Bo, bad Bo to like, holy crap, this guy can play. Like, I mean, just the maturity and just the way he has grown up just in college.
Yeah.
It's almost like he needed to get away from a certain situation.
Yeah, actually get away from just a certain state. Like,
yeah. Well, and he said as much not too long
home.
ago that he thinks that there's an unhealthy obsession with the South and their football, and he didn't thrive in that environment, especially for him to be able. And it's actually refreshing for me to hear he goes over there and he goes, "No, it just seems more fun out here," and that's crazy because I mean, you watch Oregon games and that place gets rocking. But I guess they leave there and go, well, that was fun, versus people here leave and go, well, I guess that's the end of my life, or whatever the situation may be.
I guess we probably need to send this kid death threats.
Yeah, we should threaten him. And that's the thing too, is like Bo came into Auburn, won the job as a true freshman. He's a legacy player.
Beat Alabama
as
a freshman.
He against Oregon, his very first game, led the comeback to beat that team. So we're all losing. There's a lot of expectation on Bo Nix, and I really think that had, again, and not to put this all on Gus, but had Gus called the game for Bo the way that he would have for, not necessarily like a Nick Marshall or a Cam, obviously, but a guy, if he had just relied on his legs a little more than what he did, I think that the offense could have looked different during that time. That's a whole nother discussion for a whole nother show. But I think where we're at right now, roster-wise, with Hugh Freeze calling plays, I would love to have Bo Nix pulling the trigger now. And that, woulda, shoulda, coulda bullshit there. But anyway, Bo has matured. The way that he throws the football, the way that he sees the field seems to be better. He's still that athlete. He's still that toughness. I think that what the guy we're about to talk about, if you're going to take Drake May in the top 3, why not wait and maybe get Bo later? I've seen him paired with or mocked to Denver a couple of times. He gets in somewhere with somebody like Sean Payton, and it's not that Denver is devoid of talent on the offense. I think that would be a really good place for him to be, especially if maybe not in his first year, but he gets to hang out with Stidham and learn as Stidham takes the bumps of whatever Denver is getting to next. And Bo comes out and you know, I think that there's a high ceiling for Bo Nix, and it's weird to me that nobody is, or not many people are pointing that out right now.
Time shall tell.
Let's say Denver picks 12. No, hold on. Sorry. Denver picks. They don't have a second round pick. First round, they're at 12. And then third round is 76.
If they are interested in picking their quarterback of the future this year, then they will probably pull the trigger on whoever they have highest rated left over by the time they're picking at 12. I do, just by the way that it sounds, and obviously I don't know, but and it could be all smoke screens, but by the way it sounds, it does seem like the first 3 guys will go off the board, and then teams will move up to take some of these other guys. I think in years past, some of these dudes would slip to 12 plus. If you took Bo at 12, I think that's a little high, but if you took him at 17, I wouldn't blink. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's kind of where we're talking about as far as where does the value really lie?
Well, that would be Jaguars, and I don't think they're looking for a quarterback.
No, they're not. I'm just saying, like, if you like, say Denver said, I'm not going to take it at 12, but I'll move back or whatever. And
Seattle's sitting at 16.
See, and I mean, they just acquired Sam Howell. Geno's there. I don't know what Seattle's thinking about quarterback. And also it becomes about luxury picks too. Like, are you a team that like really needs a quarterback right now? Washington. If Washington decided to move out from 2 and take Bo or Penix later versus drafting Drake May or Jaden Daniels at 2, like that would make sense to me. Like, because that team doesn't have really the luxury to say all we need is a quarterback. They need substantially more. So you either take an offensive lineman at 2, or you move out of the 2 spot, take somebody later, and then move to a spot where you can take one of these later quarterbacks. I don't think that and this is for all of them. Like the Bears taking Caleb Williams, I don't think the drop off is significant to Bo Nix. Like, I don't like. Caleb was extremely special last year during his Heisman year. He is special. The guy is that good. But when it comes to looking for a sure thing or grabbing value, I just don't think the gap's there. Like, I just don't think it's that big. And again, I could be proven extremely wrong come this upcoming season. But right now, where I'm sitting and what I've watched and paid attention to, I just don't see the gap being that large.
I will say, out of all of these, Bo Nix, I think I'm most happiest for him, because even though he was an Auburn quarterback, like I saw the abuse he took, and
it was rough, man.
I saw that stuff, and just like I said, just the difference between like just his like outward demeanor and everything. Just seeing him on the sidelines, it was totally different from when he was at Auburn. And I'm honestly, I'm glad to see it. And I hope he gets in a good situation. I hope he doesn't go too early and has too many expectations put on him early on. I hope he does kind of get back. And
if he did end up somewhere like Seattle, where Geno's not going anywhere this year, maybe not next year, you have a couple of years with a team that's got a good receiving core around. They're building their offensive line. They've got some young guys there that are doing well. The defense is resurging. I could see somewhere like Seattle, or just somewhere, and I'm not even saying very specifically a veteran quarterback to learn behind, but just a comfortable situation, which Denver, again, is not lacking. Like, Denver's not bad or hadn't been bad because of who is playing there. Like, there's been some other stuff going on in Denver So that could be an option. And again, Stidham beats him out, plays the first 6 weeks, and then gives way or something like that. Like that could be really beneficial for a Bo. Especially, I saw somebody say that his ceiling could be Drew Brees, and then pairing him with, because he's a guy that operates well in his system. I think that's something that everybody's going to look at. Like Caleb is somebody who, first off, we'll get to Caleb in a second, but ran a system that is just garbage. Like Lincoln Riley is a fine play caller and is beyond proven at doing his job well. But if you watch what like USC runs, it's garbage. Like it is just a terrible offense to watch and does not translate to the next level at all. Like it's not just, oh, they run a spread, it doesn't translate. No, like there is nothing about what USC did this past season specifically that translates to anything on any NFL team. I got off on ranting about USC. Operating within a system, and that's something that Bo does. You watch the tape, and he'll hit the slant, he'll hit the check down, he'll do the very routine throw to the open man, and then boom, he lets one go for 60 on a dime, or throws a dime, and so I think that Bo has maybe the most upside really out of these top guys. Again, I haven't done the rest of the class yet. Don't know that I will, but I think Bo's got plenty of opportunity to be. I mean, like realistically, ceiling wise, maybe the best out of his class. I don't know if that'll come to fruition, but I think that talent wise, he definitely has that.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say this about him, but I mean that's probably about. It's probably about with pretty much any of these guys, but like I said earlier, if he gets in the right situation, that right situation. Somebody like Bo Nix, could, because there's some of these guys, like, I'm sorry, but you can put JJ McCarthy in the right situation. We're still kind of like, will it do it? I think for sure, like Bo, you get him in the right situation, and I think later on he will succeed. I hope he does.
And if nothing else, he's just on a team or in the league for a while. I mean, that's
and he does the AJ McCarron thing, and plays in 3 games and. Isn't crippled for the rest of his life from being hit all the time.
I think
that's also a millionaire,
right? I think you could do a lot worse than having Bo Nix on your roster.
Yeah,
like that regardless of if he ends up being a guy that you can rely on to be your starter game in, game out. I don't know. I think that his ceiling is absolutely there, but if nothing else, he will be somebody that you would be willing to spot play the way that they do with McCarron, and then. We've talked before about how much respect I have for McCarron, specifically playing in the spring league for his kids to see him start. So we could see something like that down the road. But then my next guy up, again, you already guessed, Drake May.
Right back. You can continue.
I've called Drake May the first note is if Justin Herbert was boring. Because that's what you really get. That's been his big comparison from the talking heads in the media. He doesn't flash with his arm the way that I think Justin Herbert does, and they're probably similar as far as athletics go. I do think that May is a better runner. I've got him listed right here as good, not great athlete, good, not great arm. Not as explosive as Herbert, but a very natural and comfortable runner, knows when to take off. I talked earlier about McCarthy being good on 3rd and 4th down. What really stood out to me for May was his success on 3rd and 4th down. And he faced it. It seemed that he faced a lot of those. Most accurate over the middle. They run a lot of RPO. It's Chip Lindsey running the offense in North Carolina.
Chip Lindsey in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of RPOs. So you see him pull the ball and throw it over the middle to those seam routes. I've got it listed that things often go.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just a random fact here about Normie. Chip Lindsey, his mother was my 4th grade teacher.
Oh.
Yeah. So. Anyway, I think he was at Hoover at the time when I was in 4th grade, I think, but
that timeline seems probably accurate. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Sorry.
No, good
Fun
to
fact.
know. Yeah, good to know. Good to know. Maybe can we
more
get him
win-
on the show
I don't know
with
about
that a
that
bit of
one.
information?
I'll tweet at him. We'll
Yeah,
see.
let's
Maybe he tweets. I don't know.
at this day and age, you got to. That's why Nick retired. He's like, I'm not tweeting. I'm not going to do it.
Sorry, I just totally threw you off.
I just lost my place. No big deal. Yeah. All right. So a lot of RPOs. He really accurate over the middle of the field. Was watching some tape with Kenyatta the other day, and I said, watch this. Anytime he lets it go over the middle of the field, it's more than likely complete. But if you watch him throw it to other parts of the field, not so much. And that's not necessarily specifically off of the RPO. Like the dude's got it. I think that Drake May has taken a lot of shit here lately, and I don't know what necessarily that is. But I mean, I think that this whole class, other than McCarthy, makes me think this guy'd probably be pretty successful, right? Like, he specifically watching tape of May, he starts off. They lose their first game after going 6-0 or 7-0, and then after that, there's a drop off. Like he has a huge drop off against, like they beat Miami. And then in consecutive weeks, he drops off against Virginia and they lose, and he drops off against Georgia Tech and they lose. He does get a little better against Georgia Tech, but still, he just goes from being like the guy that everybody thought he was going to a guy that's like, it seems, not so sure. Struggles with some of the more easy completions. Like he'll have like one of those like really big, really neat throws and then turn around and throw a hitch into the dirt. He has an issue with down the sideline throws with trying to load up the ball. He gets really lazy with mechanics and kind of dips, and that results in a lot of underthrows and a lot of throws out of bounds when he's trying to go deep down the sideline. Overall, with May, again, it just becomes: are you willing to take somebody like Drake May at 3, or are you going to take Bo Nix at 12, 15, 17, whatever you're going to take? Like, I do not see I just don't see the gap being that big. And that's not really taken away from May. Like, I think May's got all the tools. It's just he needs to regain where he was accuracy wise in 23 or 22. And I think it became just he didn't get a whole lot of help either this year. If you watch the tape, their receivers were dropping passes. I think he does tend to put the ball in a little more danger than some of these other quarterbacks, but I think it's because he thinks that he can make the play. So there's some of that is that coachable to the point of being like, hey, quit it. Like, don't do that. But also like kind of keep doing that because you kind of need to be able to feel that way to play the game at that level. So right now where I'd have Drake would be after Caleb and Jaden.
More like a tied for him and Bo, tied for third.
Really, after what? Because I mean, I just did Bo today, and I did Drake yesterday and a little bit the day before, and some of these other guys I've done throughout the last few weeks. But Bo really just, and it wasn't even that I was so overly impressed with what I saw from Bo. Right? It's just that after watching Drake and then going right into Bo, it's like there's just not a whole lot of difference here. I don't see a whole lot. Like, why would you love one and not love the other? If you had Drake ranked 3 and then Bo ranked 4 and they weren't that much different, I'd understand. But even, I mean, realistically, even looking at Caleb and Jaden, who I'm in love with Jaden Daniels. I think that he's the most consistently accurate quarterback in this class. At least he was this past season. But even from Caleb and Jaden, I don't really know that the gap is that big, and we'll find out. But
I guess, what's your guess at number 2?
I would put Caleb Williams, but I'm guessing it's Jaden Daniels.
We're on the exact same page here, Normie. This is awesome.
He has called every one of these.
Yeah. Caleb Williams is my number 2, and not to take away from Caleb Williams. It's just the things that I watch from Caleb. Again, my theme of this quarterback class has been who is the most consistently accurate, and Caleb is not. And again, watching that offense is absolutely garbage. Watching the offense is he's either throwing horizontally or he's scrambling around and then launching a ball deep.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of playing within a system. The positives that I talked about with the other guys, because McCarthy and Bo very specifically play within their system. Drake May does a good job of that as well, but the other two stick out on that for me more. Caleb, it's not that Caleb's playing outside of the system. It's just that the system is garbage. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've watched Kurt Warner, somebody who has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. He feels very similarly. I love Caleb's ability to make plays on the move. I think that he is people started comparing him to Mahomes before he was a Heisman winner, and now that's even gotten more. And realistically, the things that the cat can do with his arm is maybe he's done things that I don't think Mahomes could do. Like, that's the level of this guy's ability. His arm strength is insane. His accuracy can be insane. His arm angles, the way that he can throw off platform and change his arm angle when he throws is insane. I've got written down here that the first thing that jumps out is the ball from his hand and easy velocity. Like, it looks like he's not trying at all to throw. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous ability to throw off platform. He's got comfortable feet. Talking about Bo's dead feet. What you want when you're throwing the football is to not have happy feet. You don't want your feet moving to a point of not being able to get them where you want, but you want them moving enough to where you are able to reset really quickly. This guy's got that, where no matter where his feet are, if he wants his feet to be a certain way, he can get them there quickly. And then also, he doesn't need them to be anywhere. He can literally make every throw however he wants to. If he throws it behind his head, he can make the throw. Arm talent, yeah, just overall bizarre arm talent. Like, what the guy can do is insane. I've seen him running flat to the sideline and throwing it basically directly over his head, 60 yards downfield on a rope, accurate and complete. He does a good job. He does do a good job of being able to move through his progressions. I don't know. Again, I can't see where the ball is supposed to go, so he could be missing on early reads. I've heard that that's an issue for him by some analysts. But if you watch just what I've seen and his ability to look from left to right or right to left and find an eventual guy, he does a decent job at it. Sorry, I confused myself with something I had said before. Anyway, offense doesn't ask much other than, like, Caleb, you go do it, is a lot of what I saw. Plays a lot of hero ball. And I don't know, I watched Mina Kimes and Daniel Jeremiah talk about him earlier today. And DJ mentioned that it's again, just going back to, are we doing too much? Are we getting outside of where we need to be? Is a slant there when you're trying to make something big over the top happen? Last season he had Addison. This year, maybe he wasn't as comfortable with the guys he was throwing to. I didn't necessarily see that. He also was throwing to some pretty decent guys this year. Brendan Rice will be drafted in the top 4 rounds probably. He's got a couple other big name guys running around out there in Cali. I wrote down high improv IQ. If you watch him move around, he can sense the. Again, I think Mahomes is an incredible and accurate comparison. I didn't see that when that first started for him, because I think we're trying too hard at this point. Nobody can be Mahomes. And then the more that I've watched him, it's like, okay, that guy could be kind of Mahomes. And again, some of the stuff he does, I'm not even sure that Patty could do. But again, it just comes down to consistent accuracy. And I don't think that he has it as much as Jaden Daniels. And that's why Jaden Daniels for me is my top guy.
I just know for me why I don't have him as mine is he, and I don't know if this is just me, my personal thing, or he comes off very emotional. Like
Daniels or
Caleb Williams.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it's one thing to be upset after a loss or something like that, especially at a big game, like when Bo Nix, you could tell that's in that Pac-12 championship. Like he was, pretty down, but to go into the stands and start crying with your mother, I don't know. That throws up a big red flag for me. Like, cause you've seen guys in the NFL that, like Roethlisberger, or even that famous Tom Brady picture of him just sitting on the ground with his head down. Like, but I don't know. To me, it points to like a very emotional person. And something like that, I don't know is going to, because college football, especially Power 5 college football at a place like USC, that's got to be tough and it's got to be draining. The NFL is like 100 times worse because you got money involved, or you got more money involved now, but
sure.
You got a lot more money involved. You got a lot more like, hey, you ain't doing this. Okay, bye. Like, we're not, we'll give you like, you don't have near as many chances. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of what I see.
And I understand your concern there, but for me, when it comes to that, is specifically with this year, he knew this was his last role with USC. Some of these games that he lost, obviously you want to win because it's the last time you'll have an opportunity. Notre Dame, some of these other rivalry games. And I know you remember the last time that you had to take off your helmet. Like that's something that I think goes through. Like, one of the things that I enjoy about college football is that it is still so much about the emotion overall. Now, if we can trace some of his bad games or some of those high pick games to his emotions, then that would be something concerning. But as far as for me personally, the after the game emotions, not a big deal. It just depends on how we see him interacting or reacting in a game that would be concerning about emotion, which maybe that was the case. Again, he threw three. I think speaking of Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure he threw 3 interceptions against Notre Dame this year. Like, pretty sure he played poorly against UCLA. Some of these games that meant more for him. So maybe you could connect his emotions to those issues. Do I know that one way or the other? Obviously not. Also, reading this guy,
I don't know that either.
Reading this guy, he and I are pretty close on our assessment, which makes me feel pretty good. I don't know what he does or if he's any good at assessment, but
he's only on ESPN.
Yeah. Doing better than us. Yeah.
All right. Your final guy?
All right. Jaden Daniels. First off, I loved him when he was a young guy at Arizona State. Had a good true freshman year. I think he gets hurt the next year and then comes back. I think that he had a pretty okay year that year. Transfers. I think my math is at 5 years. Transfers, has a pretty decent year last year, and then goes the frick off this year.
Yeah.
I've got one of my top notes is draft him on the Florida game alone. Like, if you watch that Florida game, he's incredible. Like, and I remember watching it last year going like, okay, give him the Heisman. Like, this is the game that he gets the Heisman on because that's how good he's slight. I think a lot of people, 6'4", 210.
Yeah.
Looks skinnier than he probably actually is. Gets beat up when he's running, but really, I don't think that he's dealt with, other than his sophomore year, I don't think that he's dealt with many injuries, which is a positive. I think he's a very comfortable athlete. He's a really fun runner to watch. Going back to Mina Kimes and Daniel Jeremiah earlier, they were talking about how he's not much of a playmaker. Like, he can run, but he's not much of like a make a play guy. And I'm like, I told Kenyatta, he was sitting next to me when we were watching, I was like, I disagree with that.
I was going to say, are you watching the same Jaden Daniels?
Right. Like, just like, I understand, because what I had listed when I first watched him was tall Kyler, or possibly what RG3 should have been. Like, RG3 doesn't blow out his knee. They remind me of each other, especially really pretty deep ball. exceptional straight line speed. Like that's the one thing that I would keep away from. Like he's straight line, they're probably pretty similar as far as Kyler and Daniels go, but as far as style of runner, like if you see Kyler in the pocket versus Daniels in the pocket, I don't think that you would overly compare those two. But there's something about like not being able to make a play seems too much. Like the guy, yes, he wants to stand in the pocket. I think that's a positive. Yes, he wants to make a play with his arm. I think that's positive. But when he decides to go, whether he runs it or throws it on the run, that happened. Like I've or at least all this year it did. I watched that tape alone.
Mm-hmm.
My next note is Malik Neighbors. That dude is good. Just when we talk, when we get to drafting next week, like that guy may be my favorite player in the draft right now. He's an excellent deep ball thrower. Maybe the best deep ball thrower in the draft. He again, going back to operating within a system, he's not afraid to take what the defense gives him. Very rhythmic thrower. He's got hot feet. This is going back to the feet thing. You don't want to be happy, but you do want to be hot and you want to be moving. He's got that, able to reset when he needs to. I have RG3 level deep thrower listed. He does tend to take, and if you go look at both the Mississippi State and Ole Miss games, these are the ones that stood out to me. He gets blown the fuck up, like gets absolutely obliterated and multiple times on both of those games. Now he stands up, comes right back to the huddle, no big deal. But that's, I mean, and he's doing that in the SEC, but you can't do it at the next level. Loves
he took a lot of big hits, and it wasn't just that game. It was a lot of other games.
It was a lot of games, but go specifically the Mississippi games, both State and Ole Miss. Like, go check those out. And just Google. He gets blown like running and is like, oh, this is a cool run, and then all of a sudden like, oh, they just killed a man live on TV.
Or he tries to jump or something and
right,
and hit midair.
Right, and then again, like 6'4", 210, he's bigger than any of us, but then that's a slender frame.
Mm-hmm.
I love his confidence over the deep and intermediate middle. My next note in all caps is Malik Neighbors. Again, Malik Neighbors is going to he's out there. He's really good at throwing the fade from the 20-yard in. Again, has to protect himself better. Fearless runner, though. That's the other thing that I have listed. Like, he's not scared. But what makes somebody like Lamar good? What makes somebody like Kyler good? And I know Kyler deals with injuries, but I think he's significantly smaller. Some of these runners that we have in the league right now do a really good job of protecting themselves when they take off. And I think that if he figures out how to protect himself, not take some of these hits, then you can utilize his running ability more.
Joe Burrow learned it.
For sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like, a lot of these guys, you have to figure out how to not get blown up. You come from a situation, whether it be your high school team to your college team or whatever it may be, you are the best guy on the field at all times. Yes, you can run down the middle of the field and take a shot from a guy because, yes, he may blow you up, but you're not. You're the higher level athlete or whatever. That's not the case in the NFL. They're all good.
Yeah.
Plenty of ability to throw with anticipation. Grittier and tougher than his frame would suggest. I said in no way am I or would I compare his game to Vince Young, but there is something about the way the opponent or the way that you expect something good to happen when he takes off that is similar. And I don't know if either of you remember Vince Young the way that I do, but when that dude pulled the ball down, you're like,
oh yeah,
this is probably going to be okay. Like, this will probably work out.
Yeah.
Also, Malik Neighbors, good Lord, that's my next note. Goes through his progressions well. Again, I can't see what he's supposed to be doing, but just the way that it looks like he's looking off safeties, looking off defenders. He doesn't put the ball in jeopardy a lot. You don't see him force a lot of throws. Other than the occasional jump balls to Malik Neighbors or Brian Thomas, also a really good first-round option at receiver. And I've got some like highlighted plays that I could go through, but that's my ranking right now. Now, is Jaden Daniels going to be the better NFL quarterback? Don't know. Is any of this worth a damn? Don't know. But just from what I have seen, how I feel overall about the quarterback position, I think that you are better off going value in this draft than you are going high. Obviously, the Bears, have to take a quarterback now. If I were them, I'd pick Jaden, but it seems like they're going to take Caleb. You're not going to miss. I think Caleb's going to be great. It's just, when it comes to value overall. And I'm interested in looking at Rattler specifically. There's a few other guys later. With Jordan Travis, we talked about. A lot of people like the way that Milton looks. Another USC guy, Keaton Slovis, Sam Hartman. There's some guys that I would love to look at that I probably won't get to before 2 Thursdays from now happens. But it's a deep class, and I think that you can find value for a lot of these guys without spending a top 2-3 pick on it.
Do you think John Rice Plumlee is going to be the next? Who's that guy at the Saints?
I could definitely see him being
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
I could see him being utilized in a thing like that. Who's the cat out of Penn State that Harbaugh drafted at Baltimore? I can't remember his name. It doesn't matter. But like as Taysom Hill has gained more snaps and done more or had gotten more production from the whatever position you want to call him, it wouldn't shock me if that's allegedly what the Eagles drafted Jalen to do. Everybody said he was going to be the next Taysom Hill. So no, it wouldn't shock me at all if somebody drafted him to give him that chance.
Yeah,
he's definitely athletic enough to.
He is definitely athletic.
What's his plan? I mean, I know that he's a baseball guy too. Is he possibly going to baseball, or is he for sure entering this draft? Or
I'm not sure. I can look it up later on. But I can look it up and see. But yeah, he definitely is a baseball guy. Because I remember watching it's like last year before last, one of those where Ole Miss was playing Alabama in the SEC championship. And he's in the outfield. And I'm like, wait a minute, isn't that their quarterback? But he did. I think he transferred to UCF to play football. So I don't think he did it to play baseball. So he may be, it may be one of those where he gives it a try. But if it doesn't work out, he can always fall back on to baseball.
Yeah, and they got some good years out of him when he was healthy, and that's the thing about his football career too, is that he's dealt with injury. But yeah, I mean, again, I will scream value, especially when it comes to quarterback position, but just overall when it comes to the draft. Like, can I get this guy? Is he significantly better than the next guy down? And if you can say no, then why not take the next guy down? And at that point, especially with Plumlee and wherever he, whatever you decide to do with him, whether you let him take quarterback snaps or whether you line him up in the slot or whatever you're going to do, that you could find some value with that and probably late 6th, late 7th type of round.
Yeah. At least give him a shot and then line him up at tight end and see what he does. Or that tight end fullback kind of hybrid position that they got.
This day and age, man, you can there's no real position anymore. Like the way that people play their offenses, there's no real reason to box somebody in. And Taysom Hill's a great example of that. Obviously, the statures are different between those two people, but the possibilities are endless. Mm-hmm. As Kenyatta always says, he's always telling us the possibilities are endless. He's
every day, all day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. Well, we've been going about an hour or 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it's time to hit that old dusty trail. Kenyatta, you got any final thoughts on anything that we talked about tonight?
Well, I guess just a preview ahead for next week. If we want to do maybe not a full 32 for the three of us, because obviously, then we're talking about 96 picks.
Yeah.
But a top 10 and a draft preview to look forward to.
Let's do it like we did the last time we did it. Just alternate
Right.
picks and just do 32.
Okay.
Yeah. Like,
well, then first round 32 pick. Where do we snake that, or just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3?
dude, just one. I think we just did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and everybody gets their hometown team.
And everybody gets their hometown team. Okay. Well, that'll be fun to do next week. No trades, right?
Yeah,
just draft order as is and see how it pans out. And then after that will be the draft, and we'll discuss how we attack that one when we get there. But no, as far as thoughts on the show tonight, I'm glad that Santana has gotten to say his piece about the quarterbacks. Hopefully an article coming soon.
I did put those links out into the chat. The Warblogle, your article there, and then your Medium.
Santana absolutely has done his due diligence on that research. So everything that he was saying is like, whether he's right, whether he's wrong.
Yeah, it could all be shitty, but
it's not uninformed. At the very least, it is not uninformed.
Yeah.
It may be wrong and it may be garbage, but it's not guessing.
That is somebody who I've watched put in the effort.
And hopefully the longer that we do this, and hopefully it gain some traction, and we actually have reason to put like an extensive amount of time into something, I can break down the quarterbacks the way that I want to. Because again, most of this that I'm looking at is really just about their physical action more than it is anything else. I'm not getting to see what they're looking at, what their defense is like, what the coverage they're throwing against, where the ball should go, type of stuff. So hopefully, as the longer we do this, we'll get more in-depth coverage from old Santana.
But no, had fun, guys. Always have fun. And hope that that's for the fan to decide. hope that y'all had fun watching it. Anybody who watches it post this, hope that you have fun. Hope that you walk away with more information than you had going in.
Sorry we didn't
get a laugh.
Sorry we didn't get to tight ends tonight, Kenyatta. I know you've been dealing with a lot of tight end grief, but
on and off the field.
Nice.
Sorry, I could not. Anyway, sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Nope. No, couldn't. Nope. That was perfect.
Santana, any final thoughts?
I'm good to go, man. I'm looking forward to next week.
Do we possibly want to do a second show next week?
I'm interested if we talk a little more preview and whatever else. We'll have some more UFL to talk about after this weekend, and especially as he gets older.
Oh man!
I'll say shoot for a Wednesday and a Thursday then next week.
Yeah, because the draft watch doesn't even have to be like a real show. We can just kind of set up and talk as we're watching the draft or whatever. But do a Wednesday version and recap all the weekend shenanigans, and then also maybe a little more preview. Because I've got some sneaky picks that I think could end up making a lot of teams happy that we can talk about too. Some gems.
All right,
so we can do a bit of a recap, and then also start to roll into the draft on Wednesday, Thursday,
and then Thursday do our mock draft.
Mm-hmm. And then Thursday the next week will be the draft night, first round draft,
which I guess we could do to the next week and not to whatever y'all want to do. I'm down for whatever.
Same.
Yeah, I'm here for whatever too. We'll talk it through. But one way to know whenever we go live is down below. You hit that subscribe button, and beside it, you hit that bell and click all. And that way, anytime we go live, you will get a notification on your phone that, or if you're a web browser person, then you'll get a notification from YouTube that lets you know that we are live. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and share us out. If you think, if you really like what you're watching, you can share us out. If you don't, then that's fine too. You're here, so we do appreciate it. Appreciate Elbiona being here in the chat. And I think that's it. So we'll see y'all guys next week at some point. Y'all have a good one.
We'll see y'all.